Okay, so in today's video we're going to be covering the new upgrades for the Avenger. So first things first, how do we equip these new upgrades? Well, if you have an Avenger, it's going to be stored in your facility, but you cannot access these upgrades in there. Instead, you'll need to bring your Avenger down to your hangar, that's assuming you own one. So once you're inside the hangar, you can start customising your Avenger with the new upgrades, or Charlie upgrades as they're called. Now, before we cover the operations terminal, we're going to go over the new modifications that you can add, and the first one we're going to cover is the Mammoth Avenger Thruster. So this thing can be purchased for $750,000, and basically its purpose is to allow you to enter and exit the Avenger while its autopilot is engaged, which previously wasn't possible. As you can see, I've landed my oppressor on top and I have no way of getting back inside, but with this new thruster I'm able to get back inside simply by pressing right on the D-pad. So then, this new thruster seems like quite a convenient thing to add because you can exit the Avenger whilst the autopilot is engaged and you have a way of getting back inside, which previously you couldn't do. But here's the thing, in case you're not aware, there's already a thruster in GTA that's available on Warstock, which was added back in 2017 along with the Doomsday heist. So, if you own the original thruster, can you just use that instead? Well, actually no. Despite the original thruster being the exact same size and shape as the new one, you can't use it to get in and out of your Avenger, which is kind of stupid and I don't really see the logic behind this. So as you can see here, I have my original thruster on the left, which I bought years ago, and the Avenger thruster on the right. Now, besides a different paint job and a few minor modifications to the original one, they're literally exactly the same in terms of size and shape. So that begs the question, why do I have to buy a whole new one just to get in and out of my Avenger when I already have one that's exactly the same size? It doesn't make any sense. But there you have it, that's Rockstar logic for you. So then, is this new thruster actually worth buying? Well, considering you can't use the original one to get inside, you might as well buy one if you want to do so, but I still think it's a bit of a piss take. Anyways, moving on to the next upgrades, we're going to cover the autopilot defences. So first, we're going to cover the stealth module upgrade. This will cost you $350,000. So what does this one do? Basically, what it does is hides your Avenger from the radar of other players whilst the autopilot is engaged. Now, if you're not already aware, the autopilot feature can only be engaged if the Avenger is stationary. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and turn on the autopilot, which means that the Avenger is now off the radar. Now there's a few things I want to go over. Firstly, most players use off the radar as a way of sneaking up on others to get an easy kill, or so that they can escape without being chased. But if this feature can only be used on the Avenger while stationary, then besides hiding from other players, I really can't see any other use for it, because you can't exactly attack players whilst you're in autopilot because you can't go anywhere. I guess you could use the cannons, but because the Avenger's so big, it's not going to be hard for players on the ground to see where you are and start shooting at you, even if you're off the radar. What would be better is if you could use this feature whilst you're flying the Avenger as opposed to just sitting there hovering. But obviously you can't do that. So like I said, besides using this feature to just hide from other players, I can't really see where else this would come in handy. Anyways, the second autopilot defense option is the missile lock-on jammer, which also costs $350k. So what does this one do? Pretty much what it does is stops players from locking onto you with homing missiles whilst your autopilot is engaged, which sounds like a useful feature. However, it kind of isn't, unfortunately, and let me explain why. First of all, let me just ask you this. What are homing missiles great for? Hitting moving targets, right? Because it's hard to hit moving targets with a standard missile like an RPG. Now, if the missile lock-on jammer only works if the Avenger is stationary with the autopilot engaged, it's kind of useless because people don't need missile lock-on to hit a stationary object, especially something as big as the Avenger. As you can see here, I'm not locking onto my Avenger, but I'm still able to hit it easily with every missile because firstly, well, it's a big target, and secondly, it's not moving, so in other words, it's very hard to miss. So, even if you do have this missile lock-on jammer, it's completely useless because A, players don't need lock-on assist to hit a massive stationary object, and B, you can't even use this feature while flying, so to put it simply, it's a complete and utter waste of money. What would have made this feature great is if you could use it whilst flying, because that way other players would struggle to hit you because it's hard to hit a moving target. But anyways, there you have it, a completely pointless feature that certainly isn't worth spending $350k on, because as you saw there, it definitely doesn't stop players from hitting you, it merely stops them from locking onto you. So anyways, moving on to the machine guns, these will cost you $195,000. So let's see how good they are. Firstly, you might be wondering, are they explosive cannons? Unfortunately not. Do they have good aim? Not really. From my point of view, they're actually very hard to aim with. Even hitting parked cars with these guns is proving to be quite difficult, as you can see here. You can't aim the machine guns themselves because they're fixed to the side of the Avenger, so you have to aim the nose of the plane down, which kind of makes you go forward, which is why it's so hard to hit even stationary objects like parked cars. So hitting players with this is going to be next to impossible because they can just move out of the way and then start shooting at you. So to put it simply, these machine guns are completely useless. I really would not recommend buying them. Anyways, moving on to the missile launchers. These will cost you 240,000. So let's see how well these perform. First things first, these do actually have lock-on and can hit targets, so they're not complete garbage like those machine guns. Now, you can only fire 2 rockets at a time and then you have to wait a few seconds, basically the same as the buzzard attack chopper. In terms of accuracy, they're not the best. They're okay at hitting targets on the ground, but they do struggle with air vehicles like police choppers, as you can see here, but I did eventually hit it. So these missiles aren't completely useless. They will hit targets as long as you've got a good angle, and also from what I can tell they don't seem to be limited like on the Oppressor or Deluxo, so you can just keep firing them over and over again and you shouldn't run out. So there you have it, that's all the new upgrades for the Avenger. Slightly disappointed because they aren't very good apart from the missiles and maybe the thruster, but it is what it is. So anyways, we're going to wrap things up here. I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you did, then make sure to drop a like, and if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.